In this session, I'm going to touch base upon the different kinds of formatting options that are available in Tableau. See, one, at the outset, we can all say that formatting can be done to make the visualization look good, but it's much more than that. It can communicate a good story. By using the formatting very effectively, I can communicate a good story. I can create a huge difference in the way the message is getting received and understood by the audience. So I'm moving beyond the discoveries, analysis. It's more about how well I am able to present the data to my audience, how well I am able to communicate what needs to be communicated to the intending audience. So when we talk about formatting, we are finally talking about the fonts. We are talking about, let's say, titles, captions, colors, headings and bandings kind of stuff. Or probably we are looking at labels or shadings or annotations. So we can think of different kinds of mechanisms which come under this category of formatting. So first of all, I need to understand why do we need to format and what are the different kinds of formatting options that are available for us in Tableau. By default itself, I see that Tableau follows a lot of good practices. Right from the moment we are dropping the field on the shelves, it is following almost all the good practices. Like, okay, the colors, attractive colors are being used. The font that it uses more or less are okay. The grid lines, wherever they are there, they are very much faint. So, or even the number formats, date formats, to a large extent, the default ones are telling a decent story. The default ones are more and more adequate. But sometimes you may need to make a difference on how well you want to communicate the story to the intended audience. So for that, some considerations. Okay, look at who are your audience. What are their requirements? What is the setting? Is it more formal setting? What is the kind of an environment? Is it more formal meeting where high level of professionalism is required? Or is it more informal stuff like a blog where I can tell the story in a much more playful manner? Or I may also be interested in looking at what is the mode. Am I doing it over a projector or am I giving it over an iPad? So the size of my presentation should be smaller or larger. Visualization should be according to the mode of my presentation of the data. Or am I publishing it, let's say, to Tableau server or Tableau online or Tableau public? So if that's the case, which are the fonts that are good for the web? So that kind of a mode I need to be careful of. Then the mood, right? Probably the different colors communicate differently. When you say red, probably I'm talking about danger. But at the same time, if it is in my company logo, probably it's better not to communicate danger in red. So sometimes I need to be sensitive. So different colors communicate different meanings. So I need to be slightly aesthetic about all those things. Though Tableau has taken care of them to a large extent, sometimes as a good presenter, I may have to do some kind of a ground level research on all these activities. But more than that, consistency across all the aspects within the organization. So use the same fonts, color, shape, line, thickness, etc. when we are going ahead across all the visualizations, especially in a kind of a dashboard where I am trying to integrate different kinds of worksheets and charts that I have created. So let there be a level of consistency across all of them. So always think of formatting as a kind of an iterative process. So try getting the feedback from all your audience and make the necessary adjustments so that the communication is more and more clear, more and more effective. Because at the end, when we are looking at formatting, the primary goal is I should be able to communicate the data more and more effectively. And when it comes to Tableau, the different kinds of formatting options, right? Again, whenever I am talking about formatting, we are talking about fonts, colors, shadings, alignments. These are the stuff itself. So the default ones are also taken care of to the fullest in Tableau. But what you see is different levels of formatting. I can put a workbook level formatting, right? Wherein, okay, let's see some data. Okay, let me connect to an Excel file, the same Superstore example, just to look at the formatting options. Okay. So let's say I'm considering category, subcategory. Let's say I'm saying sales. Okay. Now, if I have to do a workbook level formatting, I can set the default format for the field across the entire workbook. What do I do? Go to any field, right? Let's take a number field or a date field. Okay, order date, right? Or let's say the number field sales. Okay, I come here, default, right? When I'm looking at the default properties, so all these things I can really set. Comment, I can put a default or color. Okay, if I look at the color, so right now the default is being shown with a green color. Right now I can very well show it with some other set of colors. Now let's say I want to show it with an orange and I say apply. Right now let me drag this sales here. I get an orange color kind of a formatting. Now if I drag profit here, I get a different color formatting altogether, which is the default formatting that has been there for all the quantitative fields, right? So let me drag it back. Now the sales again, let me go. So these default properties, either I can change them. Now the more important thing is when I get into this number format, so all these things, the number is standard, custom, currency, percentage, I can very well change the format associated with the number. So I can make any kind of changes looking at what is the kind of mechanism that I require, and I can take it across for the whole workbook. Then when I am looking at the story level, I can do some kind of formatting at a story level. When we talk about the story, we'll do the formatting of it. I can do the formatting at a dashboard level, where dashboard level formatting will be applied, or I can do the formatting at the worksheet level. right? When you are looking at this format, there are so many things that you can do at the worksheet level. You could see, you can play around with the font, you can play around with the alignment, shading, borders, lines. You can simply play around with the stuff. So all these are coming under the worksheet level formatting, right? You could very well do the formatting associated with the font, the alignment, the shading, the borders and the lines. Or you can go for slightly additional stuff like reference lines, drop lines, annotations, titles and captions, field labels. The next kind of theme, you can go for legends, you can go for formatting for quick filters, parameters, etc. So all these formatting layers you can very well apply. So if I am typically looking at this worksheet level formatting, okay, come to this font. Now what you see is on the left side, you get the formatting option. So you can do a sheet level formatting. Across the sheet you can say, okay, what is the font, the pane level, header level, tooltip level, again total, pane level, header level, grand total, pane level, header level. So that's the default formatting. And again, rows, you can override that. Again, for the rows, we are saying row header. If you want to change, okay, let's try a few things, right? So these are for the default. Let's say at the default, I am not setting, but at the header level, I am setting a brown color. Okay, this is the header level formatting, right? Row headers. So the total, grand total also will have this kind of header. Similarly, column level headings, let's say I'm changing it to some other color. You see at the top the colors are changing. So you can, that is how you can play around with the stuff. Now this, if you look at font, alignment, shading, borders. Now here you are getting those options: alignment, shading, borders. You can very well, so by default there are no borders. So if required, you can, if you say I'll put some kind of border like this. So wherever applicable, so when we are displaying the data, okay, this is for the column level. Now at the sheet level, let's look at sheet level, the borders, there are none. Okay, sheet level borders. Let's say I'm selecting this with this color. Now I get a border, right? If I did not like it, then I change it. None. So that's the kind of bordering that I can apply: pane level bordering, header level bordering. So this is a cell level bordering. Now let's say I want to put a pane level border. Right now this is the kind of border. Let's say I want to put it with a green color or something, right, with so much of a hard dash. Okay, or probably I can put the pane level kind of a bordering. For header, let's say I want to put some dark kind of borders, etc. You can just play around with the stuff, right? So that's a kind of sheet level, row level, column level kind of borderings you can put, right? You can play around with the lines as well. Now all these things will communicate a better picture. Sometimes while we are presenting, we may be more interested in presenting a much better picture, right? And at the same time, you can very well specify the fields. Okay, do you want to do this for categories, subcategories, or some of the sales? So for which kind of fields you want, what kind of formatting to be applied. So you can very well just play around with it. Formatting is something where you can simply keep playing around, exploring the options which can really make things work for you much better, right? Then the other set which you can very much get into, right? You can very well look at all these kind of formatting options itself, because when you are going for field levels, see, when you are doing different kinds of formatting, okay, I have reference line. Again, sheet level, the reference line, whatever we are drawing, this is what is the default. Right, once we have created, okay, let me create this one, and on the top of it, let's say I'm adding a reference line. Right, I create the reference line for the entire table, and the average of the sales is what I put as a part of the reference label. Okay, so this happens to be my reference line, and by default the color of this reference line is this one. So otherwise, if I put a green color for the reference line and make it more and more darker, okay, this is how the reference line now looks, because my default is different. Then if I want to fill above or fill below, right, fill above it with some color, and fill below it. So if at all we are trying to work out on filling above or below, I can use different kinds of colors. Then similarly, a reference band. If I am creating a reference band, then this is the kind of color that is getting selected. So all these things with respect to the reference line, with respect to the box and whisker plots, we have seen the box and whisker plot. These are the basic formattings that have come. Row level, for column level, I can override the stuff if required. Right? Now the same logic goes with respect to drop lines. So the drop lines are typically showing light, so line, font, alignment and shading. Then for annotations, okay, wherever I am showing an annotation, let's say on this I want to put up some kind of an annotation. I have a mark level annotation, point level annotation and area level annotation. So for this particular mark, let's say I want to look at the category, the subcategory and the sales. So it is typically showing me that the category is office, subcategory is storage, sales is this much. But we are getting the text, alignment and everything through this kind of formatting option. So in some cases, this kind of mark level formatting can really do some kind of wonders in terms of presenting the data. Right, when I am doing an annotation for a point, okay, let's say I am saying this particular point is the sales. So where I am annotating that the sales, only I am looking at this particular specific point. Right, the sales is 177. If you look at the total sales is 206. But at this particular point, the number is 177,469. So I am trying to mark a particular point here. So that point can be annotated, let's say on this particular line. Right, this is the average line. So at this particular point, let's say I want to do the annotation, I could do a point annotation. So here I can say that the sales is 135.315, which is what happens to be the average. So the annotation can be done like this, but this part is talking about the formattings that you could do at the annotation level. Then similarly for titles and captions, you have shadings, borders, etc. Then for each of the field labels, right, you have the labels associated with the fields. You have all these things, the font, shadings, etc. By default now it is showing 8, but if I say I want 14 for all the field labels, Alright, so different kinds of formatting options. Okay, here also if I'm increasing it, let's say to 12. So different kinds, I mean, you can very well go ahead and just play around with the stuff to really get a hold on different kinds of formatting options, right? And then even the legends that get displayed, you can do a different formatting. Quick filters you apply, you can do a different level of formatting. So almost at every layer, you can very well play around and try to use different kinds of formattings to make the workbook or the dashboard look more and more pleasing, more and more visually appealing, and communicate the right picture. So this is more of the aesthetic, bringing in the aesthetic sense to the visualization or the dashboard that we have created. But what I wanted to show is across, these are the different kinds of formatting options that are available. And after you have done all of them, if you really want to go back to the default, you can very well clear the formatting option. So just try playing around with the different kinds of formatting options which can give you the colors of your choice. Sometimes your organization might be following some default colors kind of stuff. So just spending some time in terms of understanding the formatting options, the different levels of formatting that you can do in Tableau, you should play around with the stuff and you should communicate the results in the way your intended audience are looking out for. But the default formatting options in Tableau itself are quite pleasing, appealing, and they communicate the story in a much comfortable manner, right? So thanks a lot for listening to this session. Thank you very much.